Let's see what this congressman has to say about all of the above. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi is on Capitol Hill for us. Congressman, a pleasure, sir. Not a dull day in your neck of the woods.
No, it's not. It's another slow fake news day, Brooke.
Well, yeah, very, very slow. So I should point out you are on the House Intel and Oversight Committees, but I want to just actually begin with you on what Laura was just reporting out with regard to judiciary and this whole ultimatum between the acting AG and Chairman Nadler. My question to you is, why do you think Matt Whitaker is so fighting this?
I don't know. My understanding was that originally he said if he did not want to be subpoenaed, he was going to come in voluntarily. And so his concern about a subpoena appears to be moot to me. So I'm not really sure exactly what the holdup is, Brooke.
Okay. Next, on to the intel news that we just heard from Caitlin at the White House, that the chairman of the committee on which you sit, the chairman Adam Schiff, is hiring these officials, former members of the National Security Council. And since you sit on intel, I have to ask you, who have you hired?
I can't get into that. I think the chairman has a prerogative to hire people who are qualified to do the oversight of the intelligence community that he chooses to hire. And I don't see a problem with people having White House experience in the past, as you mentioned.
Okay,
before.
let me stop you there,
Even Devin Nunes did that as well.
Let's be specific, because if you can't name names, White House experience, how recently have they worked at the White House?
No, I can't comment on that. But what I can say is that...
Can you at all tell me if they've at all worked under this administration?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I honestly can't, because I think the interviewing process is ongoing. But the main point, Brooke, is that the White House should not have veto power over whom the chairman can hire to conduct oversight over the intelligence community. I think that's been an ongoing problem with this president. Just the other night he said, you know, if you investigate us, that would amount to war. That's practically what he said. And we're not going to be cowed into not doing our constitutionally prescribed duty of oversight.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, if you can't tell me who, can you tell me what these individuals will be looking into precisely, and why this national security expertise is so important?
Well, what I can say is that the people that are going to be hired for the ongoing Russia investigation, for instance, are going to have to look into all the different areas that the chairman talked about day before yesterday, including obviously Russia's malign influence on the 2016 elections and countermeasures that we need to adopt against them. Also, whether individuals in the current administration, including the president and his affiliates, might be vulnerable to foreign influence, or whether foreign actors are trying to exert leverage over them financially. Also, whether there are any linkages between the Trump organization and the Russians with regard to the 2016 election. And then finally, whether anybody committed obstruction of justice in answering any of these questions.
What about, let me just move on from that, because you're also, on this committee investigating the president's finances, and the president says you are harassing him. You crossed his red line. To that you say what?
Again, he likes to draw red lines. However, they may be meaningless within the law. I'm sorry?
Are you harassing him?
If he thinks that oversight equals harassment, that's his decision, but we're just conducting oversight, Brooke.
Okay. Senior Democrat on the House Intel Committee, Eric Swalwell, said this, quote, "We are going to take an MRI to any Russian financing that the Trump organization and the president may have had." So you tell me, would you use the same analogy of an MRI? And can you be specific about why you're suspicious, particularly about the president's finances?
Well, look, I think that the fact that the president's not willing to share his tax returns, the fact that he's got connections with so many Russian oligarchs and others, that it basically raises the question of what were exactly the transactions that occurred in 2016 leading up to the election. Just one example, the Trump Tower Moscow meetings.
Sure.
What exactly was the reason why Michael Cohen found himself lying over and over again about when those discussions ended? trended. First it was January, later it was the summer. Rudy Giuliani said it went up all the way through the election. So those are just some of the issues that beg the question about what exactly is within the president's finances that they don't want to share with the rest of the world.
It's interesting you mentioned Michael Cohen. I'm just curious, Congressman, now that these hearings are starting, who is the one person you want to hear testify the most?
Well, I got to tell you, Michael Cohen is at the nexus of the president's professional life, his campaign, as well as his business affairs. And so he knows a lot about a lot of things. So I think that he would be one person that I think all of us are going to ask a lot of questions of.
And lastly, just by the way, you know, it's your committee that's been infamous for not exactly getting along and quite divided over this whole Russia investigations. What are your Republican colleagues saying to you about you guys going after the president's finances?
Well, I think that I'm very hopeful that Chairman Schiff can bring more comedy to the committee now.
That was a dodge, Congressman. What are those Republicans saying to you?
Well, look, I think that the Republicans, you heard them yesterday complain about whether there was collusion or conspiracy between Hillary Clinton and the Russians. And I think Chairman Schiff said it best. If you have evidence of any of this, present it to the committee, and then let's go forward from there.